Claudia van Zuiden from Amsterdam, the Netherlands. She is a world capacity on compassionate leadership, which is the latest trend in entrepreneurship and leadership. So, ladies and gentlemen, give a big applause to Claudia van Zuiden.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank Christian and Alexandra for inviting me to speak leadership. So, what is compassion? Anybody would like to share? Is there a difference between compassion and empathy? A lot of people think that compassion and empathy are the same thing, but actually there is a difference. And as His Holiness the Dalai Lama said, compassion is when you actually feel what the other person is doing, but you want to take action to alleviate that suffering that the person is going through. So I would like to invite you to think about a moment in your life when you went through a very difficult time. And there was someone in your life, perhaps in a leadership role or as a mentor or as a teacher, who helped you to alleviate some of that suffering. So perhaps you want to take a moment to reflect on that. And who was that person? Where was the situation? Who else was involved? And how did it make you feel? And it's the feeling, that wanting to take action to alleviate the suffering of someone. And why is that important in the workplace? We might think as leaders or as managers that we are very inspiring. But a study in 2016 showed, that was a study of 52,000 managers, that 86% rated themselves as inspiring and good role models in the workplace. Another survey showed that 82% of employees saw these leaders actually as totally uninspiring. So it's interesting what we think we are and actually what we are. It also showed that only 13% of the global workforce is engaged. And actually 24% are actively disengaged. So imagine if you have a team that is working from that stance. And to me that suggests that the global 46 billion investment on leadership training should be reconsidered. So it is also shown that, we discussed this before, when many leaders start to feel powerful, their kinder qualities start to decline. They become less empathic, they become less considerate towards their staff. And actually it showed that they become more rude and they become more selfish in their behavior and also unethical. So, this is interesting. Everything we do starts in our mind. And if we want to know how our mind works, we have to self-reflect. If we change our mind, we also change our lives, but it also can change the life of others. And we have maybe seen that Silicon Valley is obsessed nowadays with meditation. You might have heard of mindfulness, which is the hottest thing. And actually a lot of money is invested in training the staff to become mindful. And it's shown that some of the researchers that mindfulness practice daily actually lowers the stress levels, help us to become more self-aware, make us more positive and have more focus, and we become more creative. So as entrepreneurs, as Michael was saying as well, he only slept maybe 4 hours, he worked 20 hours a day. Mindfulness can actually help us to stay more focused in what we want to achieve. So what is this mindfulness? I don't know why this is wrong, but this is a pity. But actually we become aware, we have a focus on what we're doing with full awareness without wanting to change it. We become also aware of what we're thinking, what we're doing, how we're interacting with each other. And this is also, we become aware of our thoughts and what we're actually thinking, which is affecting what we're doing. The research on mindfulness is incredible. There's been research done with war veterans who have done 7 days mindfulness training, that it reduced the post-traumatic stress levels by 40%. And it's also shown that the more we practice mindfulness, more it becomes natural. We become more mindful in everyday actions. So it also helps to regulate our emotions and to release some of the stress that can affect us in our daily practice, being like, for example, leaders or managers. Also, it promotes the empathic concern for others. Like we said, it helps with the emotions, it increases the ability to focus attention, and it advances the cognitive functions. But what mostly is the main key with mindfulness is that we want to alleviate the suffering of others. We become more empathic. However, it is important that we do this mindfulness practice when we include compassion and wisdom. Because if we are mindful, we can become a mindful burglar. So we can do unethical activities also. But if we apply the ethics to that, such as applying compassion and being wise enough what action to take, this also helps us to create a more healthy relationship with others and with ourselves. So we become more relaxed, we become more stable, and we become more clear in our minds. So how does it cultivate compassion, mindfulness? How does it work? What is really important, a lot of people say, I can't change anymore, I have my habits, this is how I function. But actually science is showing that is not true. We can continuously change our mind. And that is the new neuroscience discovery. So when we become more mindful and familiar in how we think and how we act, this is going to affect how we relate. This is going to also affect how we relate to our teams. I'm one of the global teachers of the 16 Guidelines for Life, Finding Your Happy, and we see that these kind of tools that we learn in the level 1 course of this help us to become more compassionate. So it's very nice to want to be compassionate, but if you actually don't know how to do that, the 16 Guidelines is a very good tool, a program that can help you to develop and cultivate your innate capacity for compassion. Why is compassionate leadership so important? Well, we have mirror neurons in our brain, and 10% of what I do, you're going to mirror. So if you're involved, you surround yourself with people who are very inspirational, like an inspirational leader, just somehow going to have the effect on that within you. 10% of how you're going to act is going to be part of that. So if those people are empathic and compassionate, you're more likely to do the same. I won't go too much further in that. It's very important when we are mindful that we're also selfless. And those three things, mindfulness, selflessness, and compassion, we have to apply to ourselves, we have to apply to our people in our team, and then to the organization. And these are the three fundamental skills for leadership. You might have heard of Jeff Weiner, the CEO of LinkedIn. He is really big on developing compassion in his team. And I think he says you have to maintain a culture of transformation and stay true to your values in your team is one of the key factors as an entrepreneur if you work with a team. Some say you're only as strong as good as your team, not as your product. So why is compassionate work so important? It influences on resilience to your staff. They're more likely to be willing to work for you, be less ill, they're more creative. It builds a positive identity with the business. The people are healthier and happier when there's more compassion in the workplace. And it creates a connection with the organization through loyalty and commitment. It connects people to their humanity. Because we have this innate capacity to compassion, we actually don't know how to develop it and share it as much with others. You can see that, for example, when a child falls in the street. You'll be willing to help the child naturally. That is your first instinct to do this. But then the mind kicks in. You think, oh, should I be careful or this or that? And you start maybe not to react so much from your heart initially. You become more conscious of your thoughts and you're not so spontaneous anymore. So how can we do that in the workplace? We can connect with people to build trust in the workplace, but we have to know how to trust ourselves first. So this is the mindfulness. Am I safe in this position as a leader? What can I offer to the team? Also, when we apply compassionate work, the whole person is being valued and is showing care and respect. One of the CEOs that I read a study about, within 48 hours he wanted to know from his staff who was going through a difficult period in their lives. So, and then he would send a note to that person or let that person know that he was thinking about them. And that made that person being valued, and he was shown care and respect, which also then created more loyalty to the team and to the company or the organization. So, leading the way in compassion, you want to know what goes on in your team. You want to empathize with them. You become literate in reading the feelings and emotions that your staff is going through. You're also become non-judgmental, and you'll know that what works for me to maybe go through a difficult situation might not work for you, so I really need to figure out what works for you. And you'll be able to be with a person. You not necessarily want to fix that person's problems. You just want to be with that person, and that makes you also a compassionate leader. Compassion is also an antidote for anger. That's also shown. So again, anger causes heart diseases, so mindfulness is also good for that, but compassion actually alleviates anger, and it transforms it into being kind to others. And like we spoke about before, happiness often happens when we care for others, not just for ourselves. We can learn to become more compassionate, and also when we are too busy, we actually become too focused on our thoughts and less connected with the heart. And I really like this Chinese word for busyness, which has two parts, meaning one is killing and one is heart. So we're actually killing the heart. What can we do as a mindful leader? You can learn to become more compassionate by staying in the moment, and to know that it's more important to be loving than to be right. You can become aware of your own thoughts and learn to respond rather than react, like we said before, like Partha was speaking about this morning. Less about the emotional, but more about the intellect. Engage and support your team as such, and create a creative work environment through compassion, where people feel safe, and an unsafe environment where your team can connect with each other. So here are some reflections and suggestions. How can you do that? People ask, how can I develop compassion? It's very nice talking about it, but how do I actually do that? I've also written an ebook about this, so if you're small, so if you want to learn a little bit more on these reflections and practice them, then you can send me an email and I can send it to you. So we can do that by applying random acts of kindness to people. Open the door for someone you don't know. Ask, how can I help? You can also ask, how can I benefit a person that's going through a difficult time? What can I do? And practice the application of compassion in your leadership role to help others to increase their happiness and their suffering. And yeah, that is one thing that I find very helpful, and I've seen a lot of positive results in that. I know we're very busy today, and I really wanted to compact a little bit my presentation around this, because I think you've seen a lot. But what I would like you to feel is that we have been going through a very rapid change of how we relate with one another. And it's very important as an entrepreneur, I feel, that you follow your purpose, you follow your heart, and that is your guideline for how you live your life. And with the joy and the happiness that comes from that often comes by caring for others. So as a team leader, I see a manager is somebody who tells someone what to do. A leader is somebody who inspires someone to do something. And if you can do that from a compassionate stance, I guarantee your team will feel more united, you will get more value and loyalty in your business. Thank you very much.